Hello, this is Gary Supreme here for Sactown Slam, and I am here with referee Kory, and he is a referee who referees here in NorCal and SoCal, and I believe has refereed in other states.
I have, but I have not done SoCal though. That's not yet.
Okay, so. But, yeah, he's very experienced, so I'd like to ask you a few questions, if you do not mind. So, first one, and this is one I usually toss to everybody. Were you a wrestling fan as a child, and what got you interested in it if you were?
Oh, this is fun. I grew up in Orlando, Florida, so I grew up kind of near home base of WCW during the Nitro era, during the Monday Night Wars. So WCW was actually my in to wrestling, and my stepdad worked at MGM Studios, and WCW used to film a lot of their stuff there. So through WCW, I discovered it, and I became a huge fan, probably up until just before the company was sold, and then, you know, like happens to many people, you move on from it for a while and then you come back.
Wow, that's actually really cool, because I was a big fan of WCW back in their heyday, too. I remember I went to probably one of the few wrestling shows I've been to outside of the indie shows that I've done. You know, I went to WCW Nitro right around back when it was Arco Arena, back when Sting was doing his thing coming down from the rafters, and, you know, I loved WCW in its heyday. It was very depressing in '99 when they really had to, when things were being peeled back slowly but surely, and it was all over but the crying. But anything else from WCW that you really loved?
I think I loved growing up in Florida and being raised by parents that are from Georgia. I think I kind of appreciate how country it was. Like, it still had kind of the remnants of Jim Crockett, and it was just a little bit country, and that was kind of fun. And of course, like Tony Schiavone, another podcaster, it was brilliant.
Yeah, I've actually heard a lot of Tony Schiavone stuff, and I've also was a big fan of the Dusty-isms that were in WCW as well.
Dusty Rose.
Yeah, collard greens and pork and beans.
I think everybody has a good Dusty impression. It's not hard to do, baby.
Okay, second one. And this is going to sound very random. What's your favorite food?
Oh, wow. Wings.
Like chicken wings?
Yeah. Like just get chicken wings all day. And I don't even need, like, sauce on them. I'm like a weird, like, no-carb head. Like, not no carbs, but, like, I can avoid them. So I could literally just eat naked, just regular, just wings. Just cook them, bake them, give them to me, grill them, whatever. Wings. All day.
Hey, I ain't got no problem with wings. Okay, so that's fine. That sounds good. Okay, next question. Did you start off seeing yourself as a referee, or was it like, I want to be a wrestler, and then things sort of changed? I mean, did you see yourself in this industry?
I trained as a wrestler in a backyard in Pine Hills, which is not known for being safe neighborhood in Orlando. Back in the day, my mom paid $20 a week to send me to wrestling school, and I went 2 nights a week, Tuesday and Thursday nights. It was super fun, but I very quickly realized that I was scrawny and that I didn't possess the discipline necessary to really want to become a bodybuilder. And, you know, it was around that time when steroids were being passed around among my peer group, and it was kind of encouraged, and I just didn't want anything to do with that. And I quickly discovered, being a scrawny kid that could take a hell of a bump, that there was need for that as a referee. And so I began working as a referee to pay my way through wrestling school, and then eventually just kind of stuck with referee.
Yeah, because one of the things that I've seen just from the vantage point of the announce table is that referees take a lot of bumps. I mean, I know you weren't there for the SPW anniversary show, you know, a couple of weeks ago, but Karina Kyle took a hell of a bump. So, and
good for her.
Yeah. She's a beast for those of you, and I'm going to try to get her on the show, but she's definitely one of the best.
She is. She's my ref wife is what I call her. She's my referee wife. She is. No, referees, backstage you'll hear this is totally pulling back the curtain, but you'll hear referees, we get excited when we get to get involved because a lot of our job is this is a shoot, right? So a lot of our job is enforcing rules that aren't real for opponents that aren't opponents. And the wrestler's job is generally to blow us off and ignore us. So that's our role a lot of the time. And we relish it and, we have a lot of fun with it. If we didn't, we wouldn't ref. But getting to get involved and getting to have a spot. I got to throw a hip toss at East Bay Pro Wrestling over the weekend. And I was like, this is awesome. Because it's just the little moments that you get to get involved. But I think a lot of it's important to distinguish this. I think a lot of referees, or I know specifically for me, a lot of referees are referees so that we don't have to bump, so that we don't have to put our bodies on the line every night, but we can still be in the ring and be an important part of the show. So I think getting to get involved kind of gives you a little bit of that adrenaline rush from when you were in school, and then you go, oh, well, that also kind of hurt, so I think I'll just go back to refereeing now.
I've seen a few of the one or two of SPW's wrestlers end up becoming referees in one place or another. There was a pretty much famous, very local indie wrestler by the name of, Drake Younger. And he's refereed a few matches at some WrestleManias. Yeah. And I know that everyone at SPW's like, that's where I want to be. That's what needs to get done, and that's how it should be done. And a lot of people, wrestlers, managers, announcers, referees, they all look up to Drake because Drake was a master of the game, and he had respect both behind the curtain and in front of it. You got anything that you'd like to add to that?
No, I actually never got to work with Drake. I haven't even gotten to meet him yet, but I've heard great stories. He left a great legacy in this area, and a lot of people speak very highly of him. But I mean, he's someone who started out as a wrestler, and you never know where your career is going to take you. I mean, he ended up being a referee, and I mean, I think he's going to be doing that for a long time. I think he seems to be making a good impression there and doing a great job.
Yeah, and in fact, one of the things that some people don't know is that when Regal kind of got a hold of him and wasn't quite sure what to do with him, he spoke very highly of him and of his character. And granted, that was a few years ago. I think he went there 2016-ish. Because it was before I myself was a part of the company. I went, though, to the anniversary show that year, because that was going to be his final match. And, he won. But it was very, very surreal, because, I mean, it was one of those farewells where they're popping off the streamers and everything, because he was a very well-respected guy, so you never know where you're going to go, and referees are something that are incredibly respected. And regardless of him becoming a referee, I think that the matches he's been given to ref are pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, and that's directly a reflection of his work too. I mean, those matches are selected and assigned for a reason. Like, it's not just roll of the dice. Like, you've proven, especially when you're not consistently on the main roster, in order to be assigned a match. That's a big deal on Mania.
Yeah, most definitely. So, another question I wanted to ask. How long have you been doing this, and how much training do you need to be a referee?
Let me do the second question first. There is no replacement for in-the-ring training. There's no replacement for working a show. There's no replacement for... can I curse on your show?
Go ahead.
There's no replacement for, oh, fuck, I just blew the finish. And having to find your way out of it and work with the wrestlers to find your way out of a blown finish, or there's no training like having someone get hurt while you're the referee. It's your job to protect these guys, and when someone gets hurt, the pressure's on. It's up to you to protect this guy and also still finish the match. So I don't think there's a lot that you can learn in training camp, but a majority of what's happening in training camp is not matches. It's not what we would call in any other sport scrimmaging. It's not like scrimmaging where it's just, let's do fake matches. Like, that's not how it works. It's a lot of drills and a lot of training. So for referees to learn, there's no better replacement than an actual match. Now, for me, it was kind of trial by fire. It was I learned a basic understanding of how wrestling worked training as a wrestler in a backyard in Pine Hills. Hi, Bruce. My trainer's name is Bruce Wren, W-R-E-N. I don't even know. I don't know if the guy's still alive, but hi, Bruce. I didn't really learn much actual refereeing, which I do think wrestlers should learn. I think every wrestler should know how to be a referee, because I think once you have an understanding of what the ref does, you can interact better, but that's a whole other tangent. But I just learned as a wrestler, and then there was a show where they were short a ref, and it was kind of like, hey kid, suit up, can you ref? Okay, you're doing it. And I just it was just before internet. This is not, I couldn't just Google, how do I referee?
Right.
Like, I kind of just had to ask the other ref. And I remember he was like this, like, roly-poly dude with a mustache. It was funny to watch him work. He was a big, heavy guy. Anyways, I don't remember his name. He was old. He was great and fun. But, it was me and him, and I just kind of had to, like, give me the basics. He's like, well, your rope breaks and your 1, 2, 3s and go. And I had to go do a thing. And it turned out the main reason they asked me to do it is because they needed someone to take a ref bump that made a heel look like a monster. And, at that time, I was 5'11", 130 pounds soaking wet. So I was just a little rag doll that they could throw around, but I could take and sell a bump. Much to the chagrin of my mother. But so that was when I was 16, 17 years old, I trained. And I've worked off and on over the years, not consistently for that long. Otherwise, I'd be like a major veteran. I don't really think I'm a veteran. I think I'm just a guy that has fun. But as far as exact amount of training, I don't think you ever stop learning. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and I made a mistake at a show this weekend, and we recovered it, and it was fine. But it happens. Everybody makes mistakes. So as far as amount of time to training, it's just a giant question mark. You just have to do.
Yeah, you talked about, injuries there for a second. And I actually want to go back to that, because that was actually going to be my next question. What do you do when you realize someone is injured, like legit injured in a wrestling match? I'm not talking about kayfabe, like what exactly do you do? Because obviously you guys aren't getting medical training, so.
Well, a lot of it's logic based, but I mean, at least my understanding of refereeing, and bear in mind that I've never formally trained as a referee, like I've learned completely on the job, but my understanding of my job as a referee is, number one is safety. Like, my job is to make sure my guys are okay. And if they're not, to figure out the safest way to get the match over with and get my guy to the back. So when an injury happens, you have to be of two minds. Oftentimes, injuries that happen in wrestling matches tend to be to the head. So somebody gets a stinger, or a stinger's like a light concussion, or a concussion. I can remember a story now where someone got a concussion and blacked out in the ring. It's terrible, but you kind of click into like mom mode, like mama bear mode, where you're protecting the injured person. Often the first person to show concern is the opponent, and that'll be communicated to me like, hey, check him. I think he's hurt or whatever. So oftentimes let's say it's the baby face that's injured. The heel now has a job of having to go be a heel and entertain and give me a minute with this guy. But the first thing that happens is you kind of assess the situation. So let's be specific. If it's a head injury and I can tell that a person is woozy, the first thing I would check is their eyes. It's the first thing I always check. Often I will check somebody without saying a word. Just make eye contact with them. And if they can clearly make eye contact with me and they don't look like they're in another world, then they're usually pretty cool. But you just want to assess what it is. If it's oftentimes what'll happen, because wrestlers are jackasses, with love, is that the wrestler will lie to me and say that he's fine. This is usually the veteran wrestlers that do this, and I'm not going to say any names. But oftentimes somebody will get, especially if it's like an arm or something.
Yeah.
And that's a hint to the person who knows who he is. If it's like an arm or something, I'm fine, and they'll finish the match and then go to the hospital later. You know what I mean? So there's a lot to contend with, but I'll just tell one specific story of something that happened. The match was it was Andrew Arch and Andre, so Two Freshest tag partner now. It's a singles match. Pretty basic. Wasn't like nothing crazy was happening. There's an outside spot where Arch is outside and Andre is standing up on the apron, and he runs to kick Arch kind of with his shin, and he makes contact with Arch's teeth. Ooh. And knocks Arch's tooth out.
Oh, geez.
So I immediately reach into my pocket, throw my gloves on, because I know there's going to be blood. I can just tell. I heard it, like just click, tink, and I heard it hit the floor. It was gut-wrenching. It's awful. And so Arch is a little stung. He's been knocked a little woozy. So his opponent throws him in the ring, and I call him off. I'm like, give me a minute with him. Like, kill time. So I get over him, and he's, what happened, blah, 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 blah. And as he talks, I notice, I'm like, dude's missing a tooth. I'm like, don't freak out, but you're definitely missing a tooth. And he's like, fuck. And that's kind of my thoughts, too. So I've got my gloves on, I'm checking with him, I'm like, what do you want to do? He's like, let's go home. Tell him go home. So at this point, his opponent, who I got the impression was still in a very learning phase of his career. So this is not a knock on him at all. Was kind of freaking out. Like, I don't know, he's hurt, and he's the opponent is a heel. Right. So he shouldn't be showing concern for the babyface, but right. Sometimes it's hard. And so I had to I remember turning around and just saying, focus, dude. Do this, 1, 2, 3, go home. Like, that's it. Yeah. And so I just relayed that to him. He did whatever the thing was, the go home, and it was fine. But, and then it was, I got Arch backstage, and everything was fine. But, that's a kind of a minor situation. He obviously got his teeth replaced, and he looks just as handsome as ever now. But in that situation, you have like so many things you have to do as a ref. You have to think about the show. You have to think about the story. You have to think about safety. But safety is number one. And thankfully, I've never been in a situation where I've had to throw up an X, but I've never had to throw up an X and stop a match. Mm. So the only time I've had an X throwing injury was in a multi-person match, which is why I hate battle royals.
Well, speaking of different types of matches, I want.
Was that like a really long answer, Gary?
No.
Am I giving you too long?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. Speaking of another thing I wanted an answer to, have you done any matches with like weapons or table matches? Oh, yeah. And did you ever have anything go wrong in those?
I mean, the entire idea behind those matches is for something to go wrong, if you think about it. I can't recall anyone. I mean, cuts and lacerations and thumbtacks, those things happen.
To be expected.
Right. I can recall one, and it wasn't even that bad, but I just remember being a bloody mess. So bad, in fact, that I ended up giving the shirt to the wrestler. Stand by. I got so much blood on my shirt that I gave it to him. So this is at the SPW Halloween show, and Samurai somehow got busted open. It was hard way. It was not like crazy. And it wasn't a massive amount of blood, but just, it was like, I think it was his arm or something, and he ended up kind of on me or whatever, and just smears blood all over my shirt. And so I washed it and it didn't come out. And somebody, I forget who I was telling, but somebody was like, you should give that to Samurai. He would love that. And I was like, really? And like, yeah, he's into stuff like that. It's weird, but I mean, it's his blood, sweat, and tears. And so the next time I washed it, but the next time I saw him at a show, I was like, I want to give you this shirt because I can't wear it anymore. You've ruined it. Yeah. But and then another Samurai story. The most benign prop you would ever think that would injure somebody. First spot of a match at East Bay Pro Wrestling. Cal Jack versus Samurai. Stop me if you've heard this one. A vinyl record. Kal-Jak breaks it over Samurai's head, and it splits him. If you're watching the video, it splits him like from the center of his forehead to his temple, just not like deep, but like just just slightly deeper than a paper cut. And same thing, gloves immediately go on. There's a spot, and Samurai's down for a second. And I usually will try to often they don't know they're bleeding. If they get busted open hard way, until it's in their eyes, which sucks, they don't know. So what I try to do, and I don't speak for other refs because I don't know everybody's routine, but I will often go, "You're bleeding from your forehead." Like, I'll just whisper it to them so that they know you might have some blood in your eyes, to make sure you're wiping your forehead a lot.
Right.
And in Samurai's case, in this match, it got pretty gnarly to the point that it got in his eyes. And so at one point there was a spot in the corner, and I called Kal-Jak off for a second, and I'm wearing my latex gloves, and I just got down and I said, "Close your eyes," and I just smeared the blood out of Samurai's eyes with my thumbs so that he could see. And then he finished the match. But things like that happen. You definitely can't be squeamish to blood. And I am to a certain degree. Like, you're not going to see me refereeing a deathmatch tournament. Do not offer. I have no interest.
No Taipei deathmatch.
Right, yeah, none of that. None of that. I'm not picking up body parts. I'm not, no, it's not happening. But, the little bit of kind of blood that occurs naturally in wrestling doesn't bother me so much. But safety first is still the most important thing, which is why we wear gloves.
So here's another question. You guys always go out after a show to go get something to eat, usually. Where's your favorite place to go to eat?
Oh, man. Well, since this is a Sacramento show, I mean, we got to give it to Original Mel's. That's where the whole SPW crew, gosh, just having memories, like flashbacks of the old SPW arena. That's where we would all go after closing up shop. We'd all stand outside and chat, and Samurai and Scoot would give everybody a little pep talk, and then we would congregate, sometimes 20. I mean, I think the largest party I've seen with our group was like 30 people. Like, it can be nuts sometimes. That may be an exaggeration, but if it is, it's only slight. Like, we've rolled deep, as we like to say. But Mel's, yeah. I mean, it's a selection, man. You get burgers, chicken tenders, shakes. Now I'm hungry. Next question.
You were talking about the original SPW arena, which is that's where I started. So I have a little bit of emotional connection to that place too. I spent my first 8-9 months there. So I gotta be honest, like, well, what's your biggest, like, emotional connection to that place? Like, what match would you say sort of is the one that you remember the most from there?
It's funny. I have a lot of memories of that show. Like, as you were asking that question, they were starting to kind of flash into my head. The first one that came to my mind, and I did not know the man very well, but I have a lot of memories of working with Virgil Flynn. Not too much backstage. We didn't talk a lot. Like, we weren't close, but his work in the ring was just spectacular. So, for those of you that don't know, Virgil Flynn is a wrestler that passed away. It's been about a year, hasn't it? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a little over a year. So.
So that's just tragic. Gone way too soon. On his way up. That's a whole story for another episode. But so I have memories of him. I have memories of that last show. I remember showing up at the venue about 3:30 that day, and being told right away before I even got in the building, "Hey, we found out that we have to leave." And so I remember, like, making an effort. I don't think I was on my phone much that night. Like, I really wanted to make an effort to, like, savor every last minute in that building. And I honestly don't have a lot of memories of specific matches in that show, but I remember the very end. I remember being out there. All the refs were out there. Everybody was out there. And I remember saying goodbye to the place. And I remember we stayed late that night, and I remember helping clean up and watching Samurai. Actually, that is my most poignant memory. When we finished cleaning the building out that last night, we were all waiting out front and gathered around. And usually it's Samurai going, "Come on!" and trying to get everybody out of the building. This time, Samurai was the only one that wasn't outside. and I peeked in, and he was kind of standing in the middle of the building. I'm getting choked up, but he was kind of standing in the middle of the building, like just kind of taking it in. I mean, 18 years, sorry. A lot of memories.
Yeah, for me too. I mean, the night that happened, was the first time I had ever gotten a match. And I don't want to overshadow anything, but I got the...
I mean, that's what'll be remembered about that night, Gary.
No, I'm just saying we all have memories of that place.
Yeah,
and that last night was a big one because it proved a lot for me, too. So
that was church, man. We had church. We had wrestling church that night.
Every Sunday.
We did. Yeah. I missed that space a lot. And by the way, it wasn't a great space. Like, like in the grand scheme of wrestling venues, it was okay. You know what I mean? It was good. It was good for what we needed it for. But that building had so much heart because of the people that came through it.
And not only that, but it had history.
Yeah. The people that came through that building are what made it legendary.
I mean, the anniversary show before that, we'd had Jeff friggin' Cobb there.
Yeah. I haven't gotten to work with Jeff yet. Jeff's kind of started doing bigger and better things right as I came into SPW. So I think the last show I did as a spectator, he was there. And then the next show I was working.
Yeah, ditto. I mean, I was on time count pretty much.
You and I came in about the same time.
Yeah. I think that's actually true because that's when they were like, well, memorize the referees and memorize these people. And, well,
And you were like, well, who's this new guy over here with the hair?
Yeah. I was like, who's the guy with the bad haircut,
Ouch. Wow. A very expensive bad haircut, sir. I'll have you know. No, it's a lot.
So, I know it's a little out of what we were talking about, but favorite show and favorite movie.
Favorite show? Are we talking TV show?
Yes.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to say like current because favorite movie never changes, and I say it just to be a contrarian. But because it's just the most random movie that always puts me in a good mood, no matter what. It's this random 90s rom-com called America's Sweethearts. And it starred John Cusack, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Julia Roberts, Billy Crystal, Stanley Tucci. I mean, the cast is fucking insane. And it's just a really funny movie. So I'm going to say that's my favorite movie, America's Sweethearts. We're going to leave it there. Favorite show? I'll have to go with what I'm currently watching, which is I'm really loving Good Girls. I believe it's an NBC series, and I started watching it on Netflix, but now it's in I think season 3, and it's on NBC. It's really good. It's about some suburban housewives who rob a grocery store to try to pay for one of the children's medical bills, and so it starts out completely benign and innocent, so to speak. But then the grocery store they robbed had been laundering money for a drug cartel, and then the drug cartel gets involved, and then it's awesome, and the cast is phenomenal, and it's a great all-female led cast, and so yeah, that one.
Sounds like one of those through the rabbit hole kind of situations that X leads to Y. Yeah. So, any aspirations for the future? Like, where do you see yourself in another 5 years?
Well, a lot of people that desire to referee for a living, kind of scoff at me when I say this. But I've never had illusions of grandeur. I've never said I'm going to do this now because I'm going to make it to WWE. Like, that's not, I know that's what drives a lot of people. It's not what drives me. So as far as aspirations within wrestling, I am open to all possibilities, and I've been encouraged to submit an application to the Performance Center, and I think I should, and I will. And if this interview with me going, I don't care that much, if that gets me in trouble, then fine, so be it. I'd rather be honest, right? I would love to do it. And if, I'm very much in a YOLO stage of my life. So if WWE called tomorrow and said, quit your job, move to Florida, we're putting you in NXT, I'd be like, fuck yes, let's do it. You get one life, man. But,
Exactly.
But I have a career. I'm a radio personality, and I do that. And I've been doing it for 18 years, and I have my own podcast, and I'm kind of in the transition period where I'm trying to manifest turning a commercial radio career into kind of a nonprofit podcasting career. A lot of navigation to do in that area. So where I see myself in 10 years, I don't know. But within wrestling, I mean, I'd be perfectly content doing exactly what I'm doing right now. And I'd also love opportunities at bigger things. So I'm gonna make sure I'm in the right places, talking to the right people, and let the universe manifest what it will.
Yeah, you definitely don't get too many choices in this era. I mean, it's kind of funny how wrestling sort of landed in my lap because it was incredibly random. I mean, for those that don't know, I mean, SPW wasn't really my starting point, or wrestling wasn't really my goal either. I wanted to get on the radio, and I did
not know this.
That did not unfortunately happen. I filled out a form at the college for one of their internship programs, and I was denied because I was disabled and they were afraid I was going to wreck their equipment. So I was ready to give up on school and give up on everything. The only people that's did
bullshit,
not...
I just want to say that.
Oh, yeah.
On behalf of everyone in the radio industry, that's bullshit that you were rejected, for the record.
Oh, yeah. For the record, I feel that it is also bullshit. And if the people... And whomever... And they know who they are. Whomever... If you're listening, for you. But anyway... to be fair, it was after that I was ready to give up on everything. And then, a friend of mine sent out an email, I believe, to Samurai and to Donovan about, this guy has X, Y, and Z experience. He spent his last 4 or 5 years in college learning the tools that he needs. And, I came to Donovan with a portfolio with 2 letters of recommendations from teachers that were now university level teachers. Good. And he's like, oh, I don't need to see that. But and just asked me, what are your aspirations? And I'm like,
Great question. Yeah.
Yeah, and at that point, I wanted to get on the mic, and I really wanted to do it. There was a lot of work to being an announcer, but it's very rewarding in the end. So, I understand, but, with me, it's been no from the outside world because they're just not ready or willing to accept that disabled people want to do more than just die in a friggin' hole, But I was, I believe this was at Central Valley Con, and there was a guy who was in a wheelchair, and he came up to me, he was trying to interview me on his phone, and said, oh, do you think that you're a trailblazer? And I was not sure how to handle that question.
You are a trailblazer, man. You have not let your disability stand in the way of working your way and finding your lane within wrestling. Like you've found the place where you fit, and that takes a lot of courage. So I think think about it. If you zoom out and you erase everything you know of how you got to this moment, and you just look at this moment, you've done it, dude. You're a ring announcer. You have a podcast right there. People are watching. So zoom out and look at it. Like it was hard work, but you did it. It's cool, man.
Yeah, I know. And that's a big reason why I like talking to guys like you, because you have the experience. People, and the funny part is you look at the wrestling business. I mean, you don't see anyone, and the idea of me kind of doing the whole podcast thing and announcing thing kind of came from something I'd seen from when I was watching March Madness, I think a year or 2 ago, because I think it was Duke they had a person with muscular dystrophy, the same thing that I have, as their, like, announcer, like, for their, like, radio station over there on the East Coast for their school, which I thought was really awesome, you know, and I figured, well, if he can break those boundaries, then so can I. So, well, here we are. So, and I've got awesome people like you to come here and interview.
Hey, man, all I need is a microphone and a bottle of water, and I'll tell you stories, man.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had quite a few, and you've had some interesting things happen to you in just the short time that you've been in wrestling. I think that it's always awesome to hear those stories because, you know, when people are willing to share them and they're not defamatory or anything like that, you know, it's always about learning experience.
Oh, I can be defamatory. You just haven't asked those questions yet, Gary.
Maybe not today, but I'll be honest. You know, maybe for another podcast, that could be some.
You'll have to pay to listen to that one.
Yeah, that's called paid tier, folks. I'll have to get on Patreon for that one. That'll get me a Patreon account. Well, let's just start getting people over here talking crap about other people.
Right. Just the shit, you call it the shit show, Gary's shit show.
Right.
And just like if somebody's mad at a show, you just like pull them outside and record, just let them rant.
Yeah, I think there's enough of those kind of people on the internet.
Like you could probably get D-Rogue to rant on how I hip tossed him and got a near fall on him. So
that'd be funny.
So if you get D-Rogue on the show, ask him about that.
I'd love to have D-Rogue on the show. That's another guy that came in right around the same time that you and I came in. So
God, that guy's so talented. Just drips talent.
Yeah, and he is oozing freaking charisma. Yeah. You know? And you know,
he's gotten some looks. He's getting attention from the right people. So he's
and well, yeah, I've noticed.
That's all I'm going to say. But he's gonna, if he keeps working his ass off, you will hear D-Rogue's name.
Yeah, you know, one of the people that I've actually had the pleasure of, actually two of the people I've had the pleasure of actually interviewing, granted not here on site, but through my camera, have been Kimmy Shoop and Kratos.
Oh, nice. Kimmy and, yeah, Kratos is a lot of fun to work with because he's super low maintenance on the referees. Like, he'll pick on you a little bit, like, you know, when he's a heel, but for the most part, like, you know Kratos has ring awareness and knows where he is and what he's doing. And if you stay out of his way, there would be a nice, well-executed match, and he'll make sure you have room to slide in. And like I've never had a bad experience in the ring with J.R. Kratos. So that's one. And then Kimmy is someone that's going places too. Kimmy is a hard worker, and of course her husband Mike is great too. Kimmy and Mike are both rock stars, and they're a lot of fun to see on the road. I'm glad they've been on your show. We got to get them here, though.
I know, right? It's like I've done.
We need a cool name for your house, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like La Casa de Gary. Or
La
something
Casa
like that. I don't know. We need to. What's the name of your podcast again?
It's Sactown Slam.
The Sactown Slam Central or something. I don't know.
Slam Central.
You know, like Conrad Thompson, who does Eric Bischoff's podcast and Tony Schiavone's podcast and Bruce Pritchard's podcast. Very busy guy. His house is called the Conradison. That's what they call it.
Oh,
they call it the Conradison. I like that.
That's very catchy.
We got to find a Supreme Central or something like that.
Something.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Or you could call it like Gary's Garage. Something like that. Garage parties at Gary's.
Gary's Garage.
I'm like hijacking your show with my random ideas for your house.
No, I don't mind. This is usually where I'm like, okay, let's see what this said. I forgot that idea, you know. Because it's guys like you, it's just random musings that, you know, end up becoming larger ideas in the end.
Supreme Central. Trademark.
Yes.
That was not a trademark sign. I don't know what that was at all.
I don't know what it was either. But anyway, yeah, getting back to, Kratos and Kimmy, it was funny because the first time I interviewed Kimmy, it was with the camera, and she gave a very heel-like promo, and then she went, with her hand like that up to my camera and completely covered it at the end.
Oh, that's cute.
It was one of the first times she'd actually done a promo, because it was, I believe, Winter Sac Anime of 2018.
Which may have been... No, I was September.
That's January of 2018.
January.
September.
So I was the show before that was my.
So summer of 2017.
Yeah, I think so. Anyways,
but yeah, Kratos.
Do you still do your camera shows?
Haven't done one in a while because I've just been busier at the table, which is not a bad thing by any means.
And you're brain fried by the end of the show. I know how it is. And by the end of the show, you don't want to interview anybody. You don't want to talk to anybody. You're like, I want to eat. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, I get that done during intermission, to be fair. But me, I'm usually taking pictures. And it was funny because Samurai once said, I once told to him, I'm taking all these pictures with all these people. You guys should just make me the official internet, personality of SPW. And I remember the look Samurai gave to me, and he was like, well, I don't see why not. You're always here taking pictures and this and that. So,
there you go. Samurai's the best.
Samurai is very cool. And just one last story about Kratos before I go. One of the first times I interviewed him, I think it was the first time, and I still have it because it's on my computer up there in that upper left-hand corner. I'll show it to you before I go.
Oh, nice.
He asked me, and the reason I keep it is because, A, he's like a megastar at this point, and B, the guy was literally one of the first two people through the door that befriended me. The other one was, Marcus Lewis. So those two guys are awesome. But, the first time I interviewed Kratos and I was getting my camera ready, he sits there and rubbed his bald head. He's like, how's my hair? I mean, I laughed so hard I almost dropped the camera when I started it.
That's awesome.
He could tell I was nervous.
It put you at ease. He made you laugh.
Exactly. So... The guy is awesome. I'm very happy with where he's headed. I know about his match with Mil Muertes from, I believe it was last summer, which was really awesome. I'm trying to find Yar Har Har version of it on the internet, but haven't found one yet. But, I think... I think you're definitely going places because you're one of the more people that I'm most comfortable working with a match. I guess your name is just more memorable.
Yeah, it's 2 syllables. It's really easy.
Yes.
Kory.
But they've handed me about 5 or 6 new referees since I started.
Yeah, whenever I miss a show, it just messes Gary's whole night up. Because he's like, I gotta learn another ref now. God.
Well, yeah, so thus far it's been Nuck Nuck Johnson and ODB that I've had to remember the names of.
Yeah.
But, the more you know, it's like what they say, and knowing is half the battle. And where exactly. So, I am Gary Supreme, and this has been Sactown Slam from the Gary's Garage.
Or the Supreme Central.
Yes, Supreme Central. Yes, and that is one of my new gloves.
Oh, was I not supposed to do the reveal on this?
Oh, no, it's all cool.
Just kidding. It's AJ Styles. Woo! Yeah. You did not see Supreme.
No, I showed that to people at the anniversary show, actually. Oh. So, it is very nice gloves.
That's dope. Look at that.
Yes. Yes.
Gary, thanks for having me, man.
Oh, yeah, totally. And as I always like to say, this has been Sactown Slam, and Gary Maloney, and, of course, referee Kory are out. In